We started out this week by talking about some general prompts for coming up with key ideas, main points. Then we started thinking about some potential arrangement patterns and how you might start dialing that in. And so what I'd like to do now is talk a little bit about refining your arrangement invention. And this is really revising your structure. These are principles for revisiting your outline, for revising what you've got mapped out up to this point. And one of the very first public speaking textbooks I started with when I started teaching public speaking was Osborne and Osborne. And now it's Osborne, Osborne, and Osborne. And who knows, in 10 years, there may be 5 more. But Osborne, Osborne, and Osborne's public speaking text, one thing that they've had in that book for many, many years is these key principles of arrangement. And I think they're very useful. They are simplicity, balance, and order. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about these principles of good arrangement, of good speaking, because they can be very useful in going back and making revisions to the outline that you have. So this is kind of as you've got some ideas down on paper, maybe you've done a run-through or two, but you're really starting to take a hard look at what that order is, what the arrangement is. Well, you should be thinking in terms of simplicity, balance, and order. So let's go ahead and start with simplicity. The key question here is, have you eliminated all the unnecessary clutter from your speech? Okay? Have you gotten down to the key ideas? And certainly Steve Jobs was well known for being sort of a master of simplicity. And in one of his talks, one of the things he said was that simple can be harder than complex. You have to work really hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple. But it's worth it in the end because once you get there, you can move mountains. So this idea of not just simplicity, but sort of the sublime simplicity, really getting to a core idea, removing all that unnecessary clutter. And we want to do that in public speaking as well. And this isn't dumbing stuff down. And I want to be very clear on this. It's not about making your content simple, but achieving sort of elegance in design of that presentation. Achieving simplicity without being simple. That's a real task. And that's why it requires so many multiple passes on pulling together that speech outline. So one of the first things under simplicity is limit your main points. Don't ask us to hold too many big ideas in our head at the same time. Through a little bit of thinking, you can figure out how to get all the same content in a that was in a speech with 7 main points and 4 subpoints under each into a speech that has maybe 4 main points and between 2 and 4 subpoints under each. It just takes a little bit of sort of figuring what has to be in there, keeping it simple. And I want to get to this through a story, and this is not a sad story. It would be sad if this person knew that this story happened. But so here at the University of Washington, a number of years ago, I was co-teaching a course, and so I would sit in on the lectures. I'd sit way in the back of the lecture hall, but I had to be partially responsible for the content that was going on, and the large class that I was co-teaching had a guest lecturer that day. Great person. Just a master of their field, very well respected in the scholarly realm, and a wonderful human being, a delight, a beautiful, beautiful soul. But on the day in question, this he or she, him, was doing a presentation on their area of research. And it's a large lecture hall, so there's probably about 200 students in there. Not an uber lecture, but a big lecture. So about 200 students in there. Keep in mind, I'm sitting up in the back, so I can see everything that's going on. And this guest lecturer had projected up on the screen the 17 points, he or she. I do not want this person to know that this is about them. That's a wonderful person, but it was bad. That they had up on the screen the 17 points that they were going to discuss in their 45-minute talk. 17 points that they were going to say. It was written, on the overhead, projected up on the screen. Today we're going to cover 1 through 17. Sitting in the back, here's what I saw. I saw students come in, go find their seats, sit down, look up, see that list of 17 things, and out went the laptop, in went the headphones, and they were gone, right? They were physically there, but mentally they were miles away. I saw other people come in, sit down, do the same thing, look at those 17 points. Their headphones went in, shades went down, and they were asleep the entire time. Not a most comfortable place to sleep, but that's where they chose to sleep, because they weren't going to stick around for these 17 points. And here's what I saw, and this happened on more than one occasion. I saw people walk into the class, take a look up at the screen, and walk right back out. And they left, and they didn't come back for the rest of the day. And it was not that bad of a lecture, but people just saw 17 points. That's a crazy amount of content. And what was really going on, I wouldn't say tragedy, it wasn't tragic, but what was going on is there weren't 17 points. There were probably 3 main ideas with 3 to 4 main ideas under each one of those. Okay? But what had happened is this speaker didn't provide that hierarchy of meaning. They didn't simplify the key ideas. Rather, they took all those main points and subpoints and put them all flush left. So there wasn't a difference between a big idea and a medium-sized idea and a small idea. They didn't get to say, there are 3 things I want to talk about. Here's the first thing. And under this, there are 2 things I want you to remember. Okay? That's a much simpler way of organizing that presentation. But what they had done is they said, here's everything that I'm going to say, and I'm not going to break it out in terms of its level of priority. So simplify. Take all that thing and provide us with a sense of a way of distinguishing main points and subpoints. Big ideas, small ideas, developing detail. But simplify, limit your main points. And in doing so, by providing us with, here's a key idea, here are some smaller ideas, here's the developing detail, you're giving us a sense of a relationship to the material. So again, if you're informing us, we're novices. You got to tell us, this is a bigger idea and encompasses this one, which encompasses this one. You're providing a filtering function. You're providing meaning to the content in addition to just giving us the content. So as you're looking at your outline, you're thinking in terms of what is the hierarchy of ideas? How can that help someone understand this concept? Can you group like ideas together? So instead of having 17 points, can you say, you know what? These 5 kind of bind together. I'm going to make that a discrete point and talk about it as a discrete thing. So, the issue is simplifying. Now, I generally like my main points to be somewhere between 3 and 5 big points on long speeches, speeches between an hour to 2 hours. And I can find a way of getting all my material in there. But I'm constantly I'm providing context as people walk into the information. Here's where we are. This is one big idea, but it has 2 smaller ideas. Now we're in the first small idea. Here's some detail on it. So I'm performing that outline for them because it provides a hierarchy of meaning. Certainly, I don't want to probably go more than 4 main points on a short speech, 10 minutes or less. But none of these are written in stone, or if they are written in stone, that was a waste of somebody's time because it all depends. It all depends on the content and it depends on the audience. But the issue is you want to be aiming for simplicity, elegance, doing the hard work of figuring out how to reduce the content to its core components without dumbing it down. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, but you can probably start seeing it not only in your speeches, but the speeches of others.